Yo, 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 yo. What's going on? What's going on? It is How Billy Sees It. Thanks for being here. How Billy Sees It. This is a new season. I've had season 2 going for about, 5 or 6 episodes. And I was like, I need a new look. We need a new look. We need to, oh, yo, yo, yo,
I got
yo,
the
yo.
joint playing on.
Yeah, the screen. So here we got it. A new look. We started it over here, and I'm really excited about the new look and the new flow and the new energy of the show. We're gonna continue having really dope, in-depth conversations, but we're gonna get into a more relaxed mode, and we're just gonna have I think more guests too. And so I'm excited to start that off with my dude, a good friend that I've known since high school, and we've had him on the show before. We're bringing him back. Where's the button? Here we go. Mark Phillips, what up?
What up? What up?
What's the deal, man? Thank you for being here. Nice sweater, by the way. I love the message, brother. Be
Thank you
kind.
very much. Well, I knew I was coming on the show, so I think spread the message.
Thank you. Thank you. We need that.
Shout out to
Um,
the happy givers.
wait, what was that?
I said shout out to the happy givers. That's the nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
It's the T-shirt.
Okay, that's what's up. Yes, shout to them. Shout to them. And actually, I mean, right into our thing, man. We wanted to. I hit you up a couple of days ago. I said I wanted to talk about this. Then you sent me a couple articles.
Right.
We're talking J. Cole. We're talking Kendrick. What, Drake? People leave Drake out of this. Should we leave Drake out of this and really?
It's not not really a Drake. I'm not a Drake. You know what I mean? It's all good.
It's all good. We'll see who we talk about and how, but it's really, for me, it's like Kendrick and J. Cole. And really, the pivotal thing I want to talk about is J. Cole's decision to apologize on stage after dropping a return volley, lyrical volley. He decides to apologize on stage, and people are destroying him. There's a whole internet of like hip hop fans who are destroying him. What do you think of that? Are they right?
Um, I think they're right. They're entitled to I put it that way.
That's
They're
true.
entitled. I respect it. I respected his spoke to you before. I told you I respected his apology. Um, whether you agree or disagree, I think at the end of the day, you just have to respect it. I think it's a place for him changing the good um, example just for people.
Yeah.
Show that change your mind. Show that you can admit that there is peer pressure even as an adult,
Yes.
and be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna stay true to what I really wanted to do,
Yeah.
and so there's a place for that, and then there's also a place for the beef. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And there's the other side where people are like, "Oh man, come on, this is what we're here for. We want to see you go back and forth." And so, I think there's a place for that, as long as it's in a respectful manner. I think a case could be made. Put it that way.
Yeah, this is one of those that, like I said in my joint, I did a episode on this, and I just think, it's not a top 5 thing for me, but if you're someone who's interested in, first off, I love both these artists. And I love the artistry of hip hop, and I love the artistry of storytelling. That's why I love rap. That's why I love certain types of rap. Um, but if you're someone who has a traditionalist kind of ethic and you want to see hip hop, especially people think that we've moved away from battles with the mumble stuff and the corporate stuff,
Right.
that like you want to see the old school stuff, then you feel disappointed, and I can understand that. But that's just not where I sit with it, because I include this whole other thing about the artist
Right.
himself, about you know beef and an infatuation with beef, generally, if that's good for us or not. So, but it's just funny. Like, masculinity is also a part of things for me. So for me, it was easy. And it's funny because I also thought that I would be out on a limb, but no, a lot of people are kind of where we are. Like, either like respect it, and then I think with the respect comes a defense for J. Cole and his right to
Right.
do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I also think like something I read either read or came across today. Um, they were talking about Kendrick's in particular, how talking about how the beef started, all this stuff, and it was saying basically like Kendrick's perspective of that person was that Kendrick is just about competition. Like his beef wasn't really like personal beef. It's not like I got an issue with you, so we got to air it out
Right.
On whack. But
Right.
so that said, I think there's a possibility for J. Cole to actually just come back on a competition level, not a personal level. So that's what I'm saying. I respect it. I respect his perspective and the choice for sure.
Yeah.
I also feel that the way that he came back at it, competition wise, that wasn't necessarily in a quote unquote toxic type of way.
Yeah. I mean, it was different. It was gonna make a stir. You know, he did it on stage too, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's pretty bold. You introduced to me. You actually brought it up a couple of days ago when you said, well, he could have just been creative and, like you said, just have a battle, have a creative battle over, you know, who's better, and not be, I don't know, come at it with some creativity where whatever he's thinking about, whatever he doesn't want to say, like I said, for me, I don't like the idea that we have this funded arena, funded not necessarily by people who care about us, by the way, and who, you know, and who are us, but it's an arena that is set up and fueled, and we have all this stuff to have black men. There's no reason, there's no other reason for us to try to tear down Kendrick at the prime of his, you know, this brilliant like poet, except we're gonna take another artist and say, yeah, it's your time to go. And the mechanics, the what's behind that is more than just black culture. It's more than that. It's profit. It's corporate. You know. But when he goes and he could have just done something, you know, like for me, like when I do songs and I get like boastful and bombastic about stuff, I try to like go crazy, just start talking about things that are not possible in the real world, you know. And I think sometimes the rap stuff you see in his stuff, even in, didn't they say he did it in 7 minutes? Like that's part of the reason it was kind of whack as well.
That's what I heard. The 7 minute drill. That's his practice.
If he did it in 7 minutes, that's kind of impressive. But it's kind of also, when you listen to it, it's like he didn't even put that effort in to make it dope. That's how I felt when I first heard it. I was like,
right,
you know,
right. I mean, like, honestly, he could have said the apology without apologizing in his track if he wanted to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
On that, could have just came back like, oh man, you know, I'm not the rapper, you're the rapper, but I'm saying he could have came back just like that, like, man, I'm not about to go at you, blah blah blah.
Yes. Make
it
rhyme.
And he could have just the whole thing and been like, you know, later for that, I'm about to go to sleep. You know, like take a
yeah.
Like you know, I don't really even care about this. I'm just trying to keep my peace. I got my kids, my block, my this and that. I'm just trying to sleep, man. So
he could have put it in a different track. It could have been just a one-liner, you know, or something. Yeah, you're right. But how powerful is it that he did it this way, though? that he did it, and then he tells you the whole process. He says, "Real talk, it was my friends. Everybody around me was like, let's get for blood, yo. I gotta get blood in it." And
that's why I said I respect that.
Yeah.
Example.
Right.
He's like what, 36, 38, something. So he's in his 30s. You know, it's a good thing that as a grown man, adult, that peer pressure exists. You know what I mean? Like peer pressure is like, oh, you're a teenager, so you got peer pressure.
Right.
Like, no, like your peers, it's pressure, regardless. So it's important to know that even as an adult, you experience pressure and doing things that you won't necessarily do otherwise.
Right.
And even it's funny, I was listening to Kendrick's peer pressure came the other day. Like I was thinking about J. Cole. It's like he's like, yeah, because when I'm not with my friends, you know, like when I'm not with them, I'm good.
He's a different
but when
dude.
I'm with people, that's when I'm getting caught up in all this other stuff, you know. So
yeah.
It's a good example.
Yeah, I love the transparency around it, you know. Um, and but what do you think about just the talks of him being soft though? Like, why does soft come out first? Why is that the slur you think?
Um, because soft is a slur.
Soft is what?
Soft is
It is a slur
weakness is a slur, especially coming for
for
men
yeah.
in um where society is like you can't be that. You got to be, you know, the hardcore um, warrior, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. You know, I mean, I remember even I think it was Stock P. He had tweeted either he tweeted something, he was talking something. I heard somebody talking about it. He was like, "Yo, J. Cole, he messed me up here with the mental health, all of that, but on the other side, to go crazy." So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
in that culture, and not culture necessarily in that part of it, but just patriarchal culture, it is soft. I'm not saying he's soft. I just want to make it clear. People like, oh, what's going on? Nah, but the culture says that's soft. For you to apologize, for you to do things like that, that's soft. Like even the other day, funny thing, I apologized to my son yesterday when I came home because of how I spoke to him in the morning,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, yo, dude, you know, just want to apologize because he was fidgeting around, and I grabbed him in a way, and I could have still done the same thing, but in a different way. Like if I want to hold you, to steady you, to make sure like I have your focused attention, I could have done that like this. Like, hey man, you gotta slow down, calm down, this and that. We gotta talk about whatever the situation is, rather than the way I did handle it that morning in the hustle and bustle. That's not an excuse, but that's just what it was. But some would say that it's soft as a parent to apologize to your kid, you know,
Mm.
when it's 5 years old. Some would say, oh, it's soft to apologize. You know, you're the parent. Gotta, whatever you say anyway, if you mess up, you don't have to admit that. Just keep it moving because these are kids and, you know, feelings and stuff really matter. So just keep it pushing. But so even that could be considered soft by some.
Right.
So as far as why society, man,
I
society
mean,
says,
but these are I love what you're saying there because these are just words, right? So what you just described about apologizing to your son or to your child, there would be for me. I don't see anything wrong with that, and I know that there are a lot of people who wish that that they could hear that kind of language from a parent. Um, it's all relative is really what I want to say, and the more we learn about children, you can remember as a child feeling ignored, feeling like you had no voice whatsoever, and that was just the way it was, and you kind of dealt with it. Maybe I'm speaking for you. I should speak for myself. I can
right,
remember that, and that's what the way it was. You say out of grown folks' business. I had I was a sentient being at the time. Um, but the way we talk about things change, and the more it's kind of like when I think about Simone Biles. I put this in the same thing with Simone because I think the battle with J. Cole and Kendrick, people say, well, hip hop is like boxing. We want to see that. But then I think about Simone Biles, who in the last couple of years, didn't she kind of bow out of a competition or two for her own mental health, her own well being? I think this gladiator mindset, this idea that we should fill a role, this one particular role, and that we
mm-hmm.
don't take into account the full person, the full athlete, Simone Biles, the full artist. I think that that's not a good look, and all you're just seeing people like if people get all upset when you see the fullness of this person that you wanted to box before, that you wanted to put into a box. I think we could just let I just want to embrace what they're showing us. What do you think of that?
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That's why I'm not gonna be like middle ground. That's why I say like regarding like Cole, Simone Biles, like I respect it.
Yeah.
I think I can't. Well, can get mad at the situation, especially this moment. That took on a whole nother. I think that was even because of how people were talking, how they were treating her. Like this. I don't even remember if that was an Olympic year. Like you got to do this tree
For the
or do
country.
this type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, nah, and I put my health, my safety, and my stuff
Yeah.
first. But I don't. Here's I guess where it's okay to be disappointed.
It's okay to be disappointed.
That's I guess the thought I want to have. Like
I
you
can fuck with that.
I can respect you. I can respect both people's opinions. Personally, I don't have an issue with either one of them bowing out or apologizing. Get the cold. I think it's also okay and right to acknowledge that people can be disappointed,
Sure.
and that's
Sure.
I think we open up space to be able to say, "Yo, you can be disappointed. How do you deal with that? How do you process that disappointment though?" That's
Yeah.
also so the same way that Cole presents an opportunity for apologizing and people feel like, "Oh man, you're soft" or whatever, blah blah blah. But it's also opportunity on the other side to say, "Okay, but you're a fan,
Right.
and you can admit that you've been disappointed. Nobody's saying you disappointed, but then how do you process your disappointment though?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And because everything's energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this how it's like everything's moving around. So you receive the disappointment. It's like how do you process it? Right now, everybody has a podcast or an Instagram, so
Right.
they process it by publicly like shaming him, like and all that.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm saying the shaming part and all that. I mean that was messed up.
yeah,
In my, but at the same time, again, I keep coming back to respect. That's probably why that's the only word that keeps coming back. Like taking like people's vantage point of where they are, age-wise, generation. If it's a situation like with hip, hop, like, oh man, I remember when hip hop was X, Y. So if someone coming from that perspective, their disappointment comes from a different place than the person over here who's like, well, I'm just a J. Cole fan.
right.
Disappointed. Like, they're both disappointed. They're coming from a different place.
That's exactly right.
So
Perspective. I love it. Exactly. And then just to add another athlete in that, I think about like Tom Brady, for instance, who keeps, well, I don't know, he might come back again, you know what I'm saying? Like, and if you're a fan of Tom Brady, you love that. You love this spirit that he seems to have, love for the game. But it just goes back to like how, because football is one thing, but like, love for the game of hip hop. So how do you define it? How do you, what do you focus on? Perspective is exactly right.
Mhm.
Exactly right. Also, the other thing is like they shot in the arm. Like the battles tended to be a shot in the arm. Like hip hop was getting musty and stale for a little bit, and then somebody would just strike a beef, And one of the points I want to make is like all industries try to invent shots in the arm like this. You know what I'm saying? And I just think this particular form and format of a shot in the arm is not the only way to do it. And I think, you know what I'm saying? So I have this streak that's very anti-traditionalist sometimes. Like if you tell me, oh, we should be doing this because that's what we did, I'm immediately like, you're gonna have to give me a better answer than that, bruh.
I think, I don't even a pushback, but I'd say, and again, it's funny to listen to it, not on purpose. Like I had my music on, I was just playing all different stuff, and it played, what was that? One with Kendrick when he, like, it might have been Hood Six, but he was like, I'm the only one that can push the button. Like me and Snoop, I'm the only one that can push the button. And like Jay told me, like when Jay told me,
which album?
That was To Pimp a Butterfly.
Pimp a Butterfly. Okay.
Politics. He said something like, Jay said it, but my Jay-Z, like Jay said, who knew that one verse could F up the game?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a pattern. Like now, I don't know whether it's manufactured or whatever. I don't know about, but I will say it's interesting that still kind of holds true, or it's still playing where it's like it's Kendrick's verse is what set, the
Right.
industry or this part of the industry kind of like shot in the arm. Like it's not just quote unquote anybody that caused like, oh man, all these people are paying attention to what's going on.
Right.
It's Kendrick and how he laid it down. Like it wasn't just the first. It was like, oh, okay, he's coming with some, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think in that regard, it wasn't just like something made up. It's also like this particular person with these particular skills, like Liam Neeson,
Yeah.
special set of skills. So
yeah, man.
he's got some special skills.
He's got juice, man. He makes things happen for sure.
He pushed the button. Nobody was really. Even when I listen to I like I played like all the time. And Future said a whole bunch of nonsense in the beginning, and I kind of like that part out. I'm like, can we just get to the verse? This is a
exactly.
forward, like Kendrick verse just dropped that. So nobody's even really talking. I mean, I can't say no one general over, but there was a lot less talk about what Future had to say on his own track.
I don't even know what he said on the track.
Right. It was just like, what did Kendrick say?
Right.
So it's like, it's my track. Like, it's mine.
That's the power he has. And that beat is crazy. It's a crazy beat. So he knew he had to do it, and it sparked all this. Yeah. What do you think about like people have been saying like tradition, like we need to keep the tradition of this going. Does that have any sway on you? The tradition of
beef of rap beef?
Of rap beef, some people would say, but maybe I like battle rap. You follow Smack and them, and
no.
URL.
Or like one of my older brothers, not my younger brother, one of my younger brothers. That's probably more his. I mean, I see stuff all the time.
Yeah,
but I respect it.
Yeah, it's interesting if you check that history of where it popped off from, like just old tapes, and then YouTube. Eventually they had a deal with BET. I think they were doing stuff on mainstream television, and Smack in particular is like the hood raw battle artist. These guys these are talented dudes who can spit and can perform and have insane memories and can perform like the most rawest like descriptions of how to dismember and destroy this other person. And then if you think about it, there was King of the Dot and all these other things that popped up. So there was Smack and URL, and then these other guys, some of them were like white guys in Europe and in London. They created these other battle things that were similar, and I was enjoying watching the interplay between them. It was kind of like the like when the NFL, before the merger in the NFL, like they were doing interesting stuff. They had battles where the rappers would be polite to each other. They had to rap and say like they would rap the same shit, but it was like, yo, I respect you, I love you, blah, blah. And they had other battles with all this other creative stuff, intergender stuff, and like just different rules where it wasn't just like we the rawest like gunplay bars out here. And to me that's what I meant. Like, to me, I think that's what J. Cole kind of did. He could have done this, is what you're saying, bro. That's what you're saying. He could have done this.
Right. He needed more than 7 minutes.
He needed more than 7 minutes. See, he took it. He sat right in that, and he knows better than this, because I love the way he speaks about his perspective on life. And he sat in this middle place. He did it. He didn't want to do it, but he did it, and then he did it, in this way, and then he has to do the apology. So, cool. I mean, that's how I see it. There's so many things in there. Go ahead.
I said that's the name of the show.
That's right. That's the name of my motherfucking show, man. What else is there? I wanted to talk about Club Shay Shay too, yeah.
Okay.
You been watching those episodes?
Not all of them.
The big ones.
What did I miss? Still got to catch up on Cam Newton.
I saw the Cam Newton one.
Watched Glorilla. I didn't watch that.
Yeah.
But more or less, I've been kind of like keeping up with it overall, but not like everything.
Yeah. What I'm interested in when I watch it, and I really got in, like I knew he had the show. I seen a couple episodes, but I got into it with Cat Williams, right? Like a lot of people did. And
they said he opened up a vortex.
Opened up a vortex. Well,
When
they
they
call
said
it depend.
that when they said when Cat Williams on that couch, you opened up a vortex for 2024 because all this heat,
Crazy
all this stuff is coming out.
coming out. Yeah. I mean, it's wherever you want to start. I mean, 2023 was wild too, Mark. Let's not forget that.
I'm not saying it wasn't,
Yeah.
what is that? Recency? What is
Re-
recent
yeah,
bias?
yeah.
Whatever it was called.
I think
You know,
it's
you have
recency bias.
to,
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. But no, he did something. Cat Williams, like, and on the show he said it was gonna be, he's opening the space to be, what he said, he said a space for honesty, for like
conversation or something like that.
conversation and honesty. Though he said it was gonna be like just raw honesty, and it's like a journalism space, as I see. Like it's a talk show where they're pointing out like things that these celebrities are talking about their experience as celebrities, um and I just wonder, because I see it with the hip hop stuff, I see it on Club Shay Shay, I see it in other spaces where the way what do you think about the way, like, as black people, we have spaces, we've been excluded from other spaces, we carve out spaces for ourselves, and the comedians on Club Shay Shay, this kind of like, it turns into like, let me tell you about this other black comedian, what he was doing, and he ain't shit, and she ain't shit, and all this stuff, and I'm like, what's driving that? I see it in a similar vein. I think it has a similar energy to it. And yeah.
I think it all depends. I think it depends because I feel what you're saying. I think one, other than the people who don't drink, they're also drinking.
Oh, they're drinking for sure.
So that's gonna have a, it's kind of like Nori's joint.
Drink champs, I think. Yeah.
So people start sipping, and people start slipping.
Yeah.
People stuff they probably wouldn't have said if they were sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it. At the same time, I think even Shannon Sharp said something like, he's like, I'm not a drunk. He's like, I'm not a drunk. Like, some people were pressing, like, oh, why didn't you ask Monique these questions? Why didn't you ask somebody else these questions? And he's like, I'm an entertainer. Like, at the end of the day, this is for entertainment. I'm not a journalist. Like, he's like talking about, practicing, getting better at being an anchor, all the things he went through, like speech therapy and all the different learning through to get to where he is.
Yeah.
So he definitely has a better proficiency with like asking questions or sitting with people and having conversations. But at the end of the day, not a journalist either.
Right.
So it's kind of, I wouldn't hold them to the same regard as a journalist. Whereas if a journalist, if those people sat down with a journalist, I can't say it exactly the same thing wouldn't be said, but perhaps they would say it in a different way.
I appreciate that. I saw that clip where he said he wasn't a journalist too, and then I still framed him as a journalist in this question, right? So I'm glad that you put it back and said what he said. The reason I did that is because I like that tension. There's a tension there. He says he's not a journalist in the same way Charles Barkley said that he's not a role model. You know what I mean?
Right.
The journalist is a dressed up, serious, I'm here to entertain. Of course we have to pay the bills and entertain, but I'm here to tell you something. And the entertainer doesn't have that burden. And Charles Barkley, the basketball player, is out there acting up. He doesn't want the burden, but there's a tension there. And it's the same tension that Fox News exploits. It's the same tension that other news outlets exploit. This kind of like, they go, oh, I'm an entertainer. Hannity will say it. I'm an entertainer. But he's wearing a suit, So, yeah, I just wanted to throw in that tension around all the new media that's popping up, and especially black media. And I consider How Billy Sees It to be a part of that. Trying to figure out like our place and how we talk about stuff. It's not clear all the time.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think that I'm not. I do not be a journalist. But from the journalists I do follow and do respect, I don't know them personally, but I think from what I'm understanding is like everybody. It's like just because you have a platform, I'm not you. I'm just saying just because people have a platform doesn't necessarily mean you're being a journalist. It means you have a platform to do the things that you do. And I don't think that every journalist also not trying to gatekeep like, well, every journalist has to on the school for 4 years, had to gotten this degree,
And they
had
don't, by the way, they
to
don't.
learn this, right.
Right.
But I think that, like even like you have like freelance, right, and whatever that means. Saying that I'm not saying there are some people who went to school and there are others who may not have gone to school. Even like even ads that pop algorithm. NYU has this class or whatever. You can get
Yeah,
it,
I've seen that.
in not journalism. I forgot what it's called. It's like whatever it is. But anyway, it's like but there are certain skills that you can learn, and I think there's a certain level of integrity that comes along with journalism. I mean, integrity comes with a lot of things, but I guess integrity comes along with it.
It
So
should.
trust that what you're saying, but like basically, if you're saying something, I can kind of I should be able to trust that you've done your due diligence in what you're saying,
Right.
and that's the difference with like a Shannon Sharp, like every interview doesn't being someone who does interviews doesn't necessarily make you a journalist.
I think that's right.
Um, but it can be a good interview,
Yeah.
you know. Like Bill Maher had this show. I haven't watched it in a minute, in a long time, since he's gone how
Yeah.
he's gone.
Yeah.
But he's a comedian. But
Yeah.
all these how many people go on that show? Every like four guests like every show asking questions. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He knows some stuff, but he's not a journalist either. But at the same time, would I say, well, I trust Bill Maher to have some integrity, like everything he says is legitimate or factual, or you know
No.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Journalists don't get it wrong. I'm just saying, but would I put this trust in Bill Maher than I would like Nicole Hannah Jones? First name would come. No, I wouldn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's a certain level of certain skills
Right.
and certain
An effort, an intention.
intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, bro. I agree. One of the one of the things I realized with myself, with some of my passions and trying to, improve the way we talk about journalism. I'm the product of. I was born in '82, product of like the cable news stuff where they talked about themselves as objective, and they talked and like they were positing this thing in commercials, and everybody
Right.
wore the suit, but and this, I knew this to a degree, but it's really become more prevalent for me when I got into the research after leaving that space, is that like journalism for the vast majority of American history was just, they were just private enterprises that were for, that were trying to make a buck, and it wasn't about this upholding this value of the truth. It was simply periodicals, journals, newspapers that were trying to make a buck, and whatever thing was going on, instead of creating a new world like an artist, like a writer, like a not non-fiction writer, they used the raw material of reality to come up with headlines and then sell their papers. And so what that means is a lot of it was racist, right? Because they're selling papers to white racists for the most part, for a lot of American history. The people who could afford papers, there were times when, so this tension that I feel as I look at like today's media and go, it needs to be better, I mean, it's just some people think it needs to go back to something, right? I think we have to go forward. I think we've never hit this mark. I think we have to talk differently about what truth is. I think the key for Shay Shay and those other things that you're saying is that they tell you straight away. They tell you straight away. They don't dress up. They don't put on a tie. They don't put a map behind you and a flag, and they say, hey, we're just here. We got drinks. We got weed. We're just chilling, and we're shooting the shit, you know. And that sets the audience up differently, you know. And that's the key thing. And that's part of the integrity that's so heavily lacking right now.
Got you.
Yeah, that's my rant. The last part, bruh. Did you have anything you want to say about that?
About you said about Club Shay Shay?
Either about Club Shay Shay or entertainment and journalism and.
Not really. I mean, you spoke before. I think from what I've learned, again, not anything like that. Even like I haven't really even followed as closely, but I know that like there's the NPR there who's getting a lot of heat for I guess either admitting that she's a Democrat, something like that, and then there's other NPR dude who's getting some heat too because he was at them for I guess feeling biased towards Democratic or liberal and stuff like that. So I guess he was like a more conservative person working at NPR.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think, but from what I've learned is just like, it's okay to have biases or biases. It's just a matter of like, can you be fair? And that's I don't think, like some people like, NPR, I mean, how you listen to NPR? Like, that's just, all they do is cape for the liberals and the far left and blah, blah. I don't think it's necessarily an issue with someone saying, yeah, this is most of the people who work here probably lean left. But the question is, can they be with the things that they report on? That's what it is.
Agreed.
Like, if you are like Fox News, I can't, now, I'll admit I'm not right-wing, I'm not really on that.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm not on that side. And I'm not like trying to make it like an argumentative thing. But I could see if someone says, hey, I'm conservative, I'm on the right, I'm a Republican. The question is, can you be fair
right
with your reporting? And from what, let's say like the Fox News is, the Newsmax is, whatever film, are they being fair?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying MSNBC and NBC and others don't have, they're leaning to, and it's like,
for sure,
not necessarily always.
Right.
But when the subject matters that they report on, especially when it comes to issues that are of great importance.
Yeah.
Like, I can handle you being biased personally, but the way you're reporting about this is not real. Like, this is not reality.
It's not reality.
So that's the thing. So I don't think you have to be. I don't think you pretend to be nobody. It's
correct.
Just like even listening to I'm sorry to take some. Like even
You're
listening
good.
about Trump and I think the questions they were asking jurors. And I think one of the questions was like, "Hey, can you be fair?" Asking jurors, and I'd be like, if I was there and someone says, "Hey," I mean, I probably wouldn't get picked if I admitted that, do I have an issue with Trump or something like that?
Right.
But if they did, hey, can you be fair? If you sat in on this case, listen to the facts and all those things, can you be fair?
Right.
I can say for the as close to 100 as I can, I'd be like, yeah, I can be fair. I can admit that, oh man, I'm biased.
That's right.
But I can also say, but based on what's been said and done, I'm gonna be fair of what the judgment is about, guilt, innocence, whatever, based on whatever is presented
right
in the case.
See,
so I think people have to be willing to say that. Be able to say I do have a bias.
Yeah.
But I do my best to be fair.
Correct.
To how I talk about or share about whatever.
I agree. I think this speaks to like one of my things with like symbols, man, because you're hitting it right. This life, this thing is weird, you know, like the idea that you're not the idea that you don't have a bias or that you should be removed from bias. I understand where that comes from as a goal, but it's just not what is. If we start from like you're saying, acceptance of the bias, then
Right.
we can have this other conversation. But the problem is that we spend so much time trying to perform, you know, and that's why I've been like really interested in like questions of like allowing oneself to be full and free and genuine and paradoxical, you know what I'm saying, to have a bias but then also to come back, because it's a paradox and it's okay. But when you have to perform, when the tension and the pressure is to perform something, then people want to perform that thing, and it makes everybody backwards and weird. So like even the conversations on left and right, like, oh, this person has a bias left or right, or that NPR has a left bias. Yeah, traditionally based on the way we talk about left and right, that seems to be pretty clear sometimes, right? But that's because left and right are like bad concepts. Not hear me out. Left and right have their roots in like French Revolution stuff. I get it, Marx, but like when we talk and we say, "Yo, I'm left" or "You're right," you haven't said anything yet. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about when you say left or right. And when you pin me and you go, "Oh, well, you're just a lefty" or whatever. You don't even.
Right.
What are you talking about? Can you articulate that more deeply? If not, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like it actually puts us away from being able to communicate, because you've passed me off because I'm left, and you have a negative sense of it. And you know why people have a negative sense of left or right? Because the people who lead our conversations every day on television, the journalists, the people who call themselves that, they adhere to this framework of left and right so closely, and that's how they get to quickly say things and get to the next 10-minute segment. And I think it's just totally trash. You're 100% right. We got to get nuanced and allow for that nuance. And I think that the results of that would be, it would benefit journalism. I think it would benefit everyone psychologically, spiritually maybe.
Maybe.
Right?
And I switched up my view because I just had my phone was like low battery. I'm like, oh man, I ain't trying to.
Oh, no worries.
Phone or die. I'd be like, we lost him.
Bro, I'm glad you caught that, man. Appreciate that. I'd have been like, what the fuck, Mark?
So I wasn't charged up.
Yeah,
Need
man.
that shot. What it is? Should have had that drink.
I would have just switched screens and probably done some knock jokes, you know what I'm saying, wrap the show up. But the last thing I want to talk to you, man, we have, oh shit, it's only been we started at 8:30. All right, it's been about 40 minutes. I want to talk to Mark about faith and religion, because whenever I see Mark on social media, which is the way I interact with you most often, Mark, I am really I enjoy seeing your posts. You talk about, but there are consistent themes, and your Christianity is a big theme for you. I want to know what it seems like sometimes, like you're talking to different audiences sometimes, right? Do you feel that way? Sometimes I feel like you're offering biblical and scriptural advice that brings us into like your sense of Christianity involves works. Am I right? It involves like improving the earth condition.
I think wow, that's an interesting question. Does my perspective of Christianity involve works? For sure. The scripture said works is dead, right? Oh, or if you like look at James, says something. If you see your brother hungry or who's naked, you'd say, "Hey brother, I'm gonna pray for you. Go stay warm and be fed." If I just say that, like, did I like? It's like, come on, man, be for real. Like, that brother needs to eat. That brother or sister some clothes, and if you can then meet the need. You know what I mean? Like you're not like to just I'm gonna pray for you. You know, God.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I would say that you know I don't say it's effective. I mean, this perspective, like millennia. Millennia years old. It's nothing new. Um,
But
but
there are other perspectives. There are people who you might meet in church who carry the same label and see it very differently.
um, perhaps, especially in America or the Western world, perhaps. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, as far as posts and stuff, a lot of it is, yeah, a lot of it is distant. Um, either goes related to like religion, Christianity, or immigration, justice, um,
Yeah.
women, like not play. We were like women, no, like women, equality, and
Yeah.
egalitarianism, stuff like that,
Yeah.
um, feminism, womanism, whatever, all those terms. A lot of it comes from people who have listening to it. A lot of the stuff that I share is not necessarily my own thought. Some of it, obviously, but I listen to I listen to people, I read people, I pay attention to what and like okay, it makes sense. And
Yeah.
so that has an impact on what I say and what I share.
Yeah. That's key. Listening to people, being present. So are you saying that? Because when I talk to some religious people who might view who hold Christianity but come to a different conclusion on, say, the role of women, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
When you say you're listening, are you saying that reading and interpreting words in a book are not enough? That there are lessons to be learned in the present that support and work in tandem with whatever's in that book? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Um, I would, but I'd also say that again, stuff that I've learned speaking just from my own thoughts alone, but that the Bible, the scriptures have always been interpreted, and sometimes people talk about it like people say, "Oh, man, this is biblical." Like whatever the subject, they'll say X Y subject matter is biblical. This is the biblical way about it, and it's just you make interpretation like whatever it's still based on the interpretation of the works. Like you can't just say this is what the Bible says, or like a lot of people will say, the Bible is clear about it. And it's like not always necessarily clear. Like someone still has to interpret that.
It's not
So
clear. Not at all.
like women and equality and those types of things, it's because interpreted it a certain way.
Right.
And if you're in that context, or if you're not taught and informed that, hey, the stuff that you've heard, the reasoning behind it, I'm not saying every, but the reason behind came about you didn't understand that this is the context which in which that happened, or the context in which the word was written or spoken or said. You know what I mean? So like even for instance something like something I try not to do a good job at it. I'm working on it. It's like trying to business and not comment, but like even on media sometimes I follow certain people and not I like respect them in their work and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I follow them. But sometimes some of the stuff they say, I may jump in the comments sometimes and talk about stuff about women, and I'm like, especially from a Christian perspective, right? And a lot of times Christian content make creators, whatever, and they'll say something like, "No, man, like it's not based on like Genesis 3 or this and that. It's not like things like, for instance, I'm sorry I'm over, but
You know.
like for instance, some people feel women are supposed to be submissive. It's supposed to be, men are on top, men are supposed to rule, men are supposed to dominate, all those things. Like it's right there. God made Adam first. Because he made Adam first. That means that women can have that.
It's
Like
nonsense.
you're misinterpreting what it is. Like putting interpretation of something not there. And even if you want to talk about, you know, the fall of men versus that came, the fact that women, one person was, you know, um, that your husband will rule over you, right? That was like first, like the same way we how, um, you know, by the sweat of men are going to work, and now it's going to be harder for you because of, and it's also like for women, you know, pain and going to increase because of sin and all. All right, cool. We accept increased pain. We understand. Work harder to earn a living, to earn their keep, survive, fight for themselves. And then men, women, that's also part of the curse. That's not part of God's design. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was never God's, you know what I mean? And we'll talk about and I'm trying to name drop on it. People will talk about, you know, she's a helpmate, helper, help meet and stuff like that.
Wait,
And
so
what's
Mark, you're just kind of cutting out and out. Say that last part again.
so like people talk about women, like scriptures, it says something like God made woman, he made Eve, she was going to be a helper suitable for Adam.
Gotcha.
And it's just like that word helper or help meet, as somebody, people, not just somebody, but many people now, the word that God uses in there is like a word that only shows up or talks about like it's used in relation to God, right? So saying like it's like God is a rescuer, right? There are many verses in the scriptures where the word is used, always used like as a rescuer, and so meaning like a military, military. So you're telling me there's a term that was used for Eve as being but it's a military, like she's a right? She's gonna rescue Adam, like in
Mm-hmm.
her, like in the same way that the scriptures talk about God, it talks about her. But all of a sudden, help me. Oh no, she's just here to help him out, help move things
Right.
out, and do these little things over here, and take care of the home, blah blah blah,
Right.
and that's what it means by being a helper. When it's really like it's a sense of power. Like, at the end of the day, the original idea of mutuality, women to be equals. You know what I mean? I read something today. Somebody said the way they heard it was like was it like a strong ally, something like that is the way they heard it. So it's like if you're a woman, if your spouse, your partner, whatever, um, that's a strong ally. That's not
A helper.
subservient
Some subservient helper.
or
Yeah.
like you're up here, she's down here. It's like this is my strong ally.
Right.
So I'm your strong ally. She's a strong ally. We're in this together, not a
Correct.
hierarchical situation. But again, that goes back to interpretation.
Interpretation.
So somebody else back and say, "No, brother, clear. It's set." It's just like, all right, man. Well,
But
that's
this is,
based on interpretation. You can have a wrong interpretation.
yeah. I don't know if you would, like, this is why I think you need a loose relationship with these words and texts. I think you probably disagree. You might not like the idea of a loose relationship, but I think you want a strong relationship with God, Source, the universe, with Jesus, with whatever word you want to use. I come back to words a lot. These are just words, right? Like, you just described it perfectly, actually. You gave two really good examples of how words, not just interpreting, but like understanding the context of its original intent. But the person at the end of the day today who reads that and sees helper, he wants to come to that conclusion. That's what he wants to do, and so he sees it there. You know, he has a bias. He already feels it makes sense to him. It feels appropriate that he should have a little female subservient woman, and why not? So he takes the opportunity to imbue that value in the words and to interpret it that way. The same is true with so much stuff. I think and this is why I come to the need to have a loose relationship with it, because even the words that we read today in whatever version of the Bible, the King James version, let's say, which varies in all these different ways, those were chosen. These are human words. Words are attempts to point to something, a phenomena in the world that is much more complex than that. And so, just very quickly before I kick back to you, like, I have to say, I've only recently gotten comfortable again saying the word God, to be honest with you. In fact, I still struggle with it, I'll be honest with you. And I'll tell you why. Because I understand that in everybody's head, that word is different. What I'm pointing to is different. Some people are seeing a white man in the clouds with a fucking M16 and it's a gun. Other people are seeing and they are using it in all these different ways, and that makes me uncomfortable, and it makes me want to be more specific. But now I've actually come back to a place where I'm more comfortable, where I realize every word is like that. God is just maybe the most complex, imperceptible example of a word that we all use and that we all sort of conjure a different sense in our minds. So I just try to, like, I realize that we're all grappling with this experience, and then we come to these conclusions based on our own stories. So for instance, I've said this before, like in the church, if you're a gay kid in a church and your pastor says that God, there's no God in homosexuality, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. That gay kid can't internalize that. He has to square it with God. He exists, right? So whatever text is in that book, which we know was a whole political process and all these people and humans and flawed and words, the limitations of words, mm-hmm. This kid has to know and come to square with the fact that he is part of the God, of what is and what God is, And it's the same when people interpret the text to exclude brown people or exclude, other groups. That's all human. And that to me is the struggle. That to me is like religion and control, and interpretation is like comes off in religion, in the building of these institutions and churches. And then there's a faith thing that I want to preserve and I want to like crystallize, which is outside of that.
I mean, you said a lot. I think right?
Wait. Man, I think you're cutting out sometimes, man. I'm gonna catch every fucking word, Mark. So I don't know what it is, but I'll stop you if it goes. Keep talking.
All right. If I switch back, maybe it's going back to that.
We had it a little bit before too, though, but it's all good.
We did.
Yeah.
All right. We swing back. I think I'm charged up a little bit.
Okay.
My plug's on the other side.
Okay.
I think you said a lot. I think relating it to like journalism or the conversation about journalism you were having before, I think when it comes to like religion or Christian, in particular Christianity, and particularly like reading the Bible or scripture, whatever, the question is, can you be fair? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a bias, but can you be fair about it? Like if you're presented, like for instance, like if you're told, if you have a feeling, if you have a bias, let's say, okay, like for instance, like let's say you have you mentioned like a gay kid in a church. If you admit that you not the gay kid, like if a Christian could admit, you know what, I have a bias based on what I was taught or how I was informed. I have a bias against um against gay, against gay people.
Sure.
Now, if someone presents to you new information, at least minimum, like forgetting about putting like love and loving your neighbor and putting like love aside. If someone presents to you new information or a different perspective on information, can you be fair to reassess some of the things that you believe? And I think that's what I'm saying. Like relating to journalism, it's like, can you be fair? I have a bias. Can I be fair based on information that I've gotten?
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a place for that. So like we talk about, not we, but like the conversation people have about deconstruction and things like that. It's like people reevaluating their beliefs, what they were taught, and again, usually getting new information or information that's not necessarily new but new to you.
Yes, exactly.
um and then and then recognizing like, oh wow, okay, so you know, this part over here might not really have anything to do with Christianity at all. This really, it's just like the culture in which I grew up, or
Exactly.
the country I grew up in, society I grew up in. That's not necessarily scriptural or part of Christianity. It's like I brought this part of my culture into Christianity, right? So it's like, can you be fair? Can you be fair to reassess your beliefs and thoughts and ideas? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No, that's huge to me. Like, and this is again for me when I say loose relationship with the text, it's in part because the way I was taught, man, it was the world was perfect at one point.
hmm
The everything you need to know is in this book. God gave us this perfect book that has everything. There's nothing needed to know, and that's obviously to me a wrong way to teach that, based
okay.
simply on my understanding of linguistics, that it's impossible for some book to be static, or for the world to be static, and for us to be nostalgic about some better future. The way I want to see the world, and the way I think kids, we should all, it would be beneficial if we raised a few generations of kids who were constantly curious. It's like there is no perfect or static set of truths. Every day you go outside and like nature takes a weird turn and does something you didn't expect. A human you meet, a sentient human who has all the same feelings as you do, you know, is gonna choose something different, and it's gonna express in a way that is gonna be different, and they're going to expand your understanding of this impossibly big reality, versus the thought that like, well, I have a full picture of what what reality is, and here
hmm
comes some weirdo over there, and let me point that out, and set up these separations.
Well, I think like related to like Christianity, right? And I'm not, I'm not going to preach or nothing like that, man. I think one of the things that it's like a simple truth, but even as simple as it is, it's something that even as an adult growing up, that I think I even overlooked because it wasn't necessarily taught that way. So the fact that like, when the Bible talks about, like in John, talking about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh, and all of that, basically saying Jesus is the Word, right? It's not talking about the Bible, right? I'm not saying revere the Bible, and I mean I wouldn't go so far like you and say like I'm gonna have a loose relationship, but I understand. based on what you're saying, your perspective, where you're coming from, and your I don't want to say faith journey, where you are as far as thinking about religion and faith and those types of things. But it's like you could revere the scriptures and all of that, but as a Christian, it's like Jesus is like the lens through which you should read the scriptures. Meaning, like, what did Jesus do, and how did Jesus live, and what did he teach? And I think, like, even one of the pastors I know, um, I think he said something. A lot of times, Christians have a whole lot to say about, like, Paul, the Apostle Paul, and they read like a lot of Paul's letters in the New Testament because it feels like, and it's me paraphrasing, but like we spend so much time like listening to Paul, like, oh man, the Apostle Paul said X, Y, and Z,
Right.
and like, but so, oh yeah, he said something like they'll go to the Gospels, like, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They'll go to the Gospels for good stories, but they'll go to like Paul for like teaching. You know what I'm saying? Whereas it's like there's a whole lot of teaching in the Gospels, though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's kind of like the perspective of how you look at it. So if you feel like, oh man, if I really got to know about the quote unquote mysteries of God, if I really want to learn more about God and go deeper, then I got to go to Paul, and I got to hear what Paul says to the Galatians and the Romans and the Ephesians and all that. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's like that discounts that fact that you learn a lot about Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as well. And there's a lot of teaching in there too. There's a lot to learn about that too. So you got to be able to see through the life of Jesus how he interacted with people. Even if you, I don't want to say disagree, but like, how did he deal with people? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, whether you believe somebody is sinning or not, or whatever it is, a lot of the questions still come back to how do you treat people. Just like Jesus said, like, the law is summed up in, love God, love the Lord your God with all your heart, strength, mind, blah, 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 all of that. And the second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, the world would be a much better place if we treated people the way we want to be treated,
For sure.
That doesn't mean that we agree with everything. Doesn't mean that somebody says like, oh man, well, I don't agree with that. That's fine. You don't have to necessarily agree, but you can still treat somebody with compassion. You can still treat somebody with love. You can still treat somebody with care. You can still treat somebody as a person who with humanity, a person with dignity, even though you disagree with them on a number of things.
Right.
And so I think that's like,
and even if you can't,
it's basic,
say that again.
It's basic.
It's basic. Yes.
We don't always, and I speaking for myself, I'm not speaking from like up here. I mean, I fail to do that in many ways in different times. But I'm just saying, but that's like the basic thing. Who cares if you memorize Genesis all the way to Revelation if you're not treating people kindly?
Yes.
You can't really keep people's well-being and things like that. So like none of knowing all these scriptures and knowing all these things doesn't matter if you can't love people.
And that hits perfect with a secular rule, the golden rule. That works. It's powerfully basic and it works. It has this fundamental thing that allows each individual freedom to exist, but with like a sense of the other people's freedoms as well. And it's just a model that seems to work. When you bring up that whole thing with Paul and the other apostles, it brings me back to what to my thing with like, our pastors had personal preoccupations and personal values and personal interests that pulled them towards Paul perhaps, or someone else that pulled them to to speak a lot about certain issues. But this is all, it's all them, it's not the spirit of what the I think the all religions are actually pointing to. It is like, so we're passing down these like preoccupations, these human biases that are at so many levels. It's down to like, oh, I have a preference for Paul, and so now everyone who goes to that church with that pastor might learn to have a or preference for Paul, even though, as you're saying, the whole thing. And that's really how I see all the religions, right? Like, I think Catholicism is a strain of the Christian church, and the Protestant offshoots from Catholicism. The difference comes from interpretation, like you're saying, and it comes from like a preoccupation with how things should be structured. What exactly is the relationship with God, and then how do you structure the church in that? And I think it's a beautiful opportunity to kind of see how it all works. You know, how it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
But interpreted entirely differently. Go ahead. What?
I was saying, I was like, I used to have a conversation with one of my buddies. He's Catholic now. We have a conversation all the time about moving from Protestantism to Catholicism. So we have interesting conversations about it, about that. And that's even like, again, like where I am right now in my life in general, I'm more open to listening to people and less, hopefully, less defensive. I mean, sometimes I do get defensive. Sometimes we all do.
Yeah.
But to a degree. But I think I'm more open than I was, especially as a younger person, where you feel like, oh man, if you gotta believe this, you gotta accept this, and like if nobody is on this, if they're not on this train, and you gotta like keep it moving. Like you can only move with people who have the exact thoughts.
Right.
So even having a conversation with my friend and others, it's just like, nah, man, it's all good. Like we disagree on different thoughts, and other things I agree on. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Or even some things I'm like as a Catholic, certain things I'm not Catholic, but it's like certain things I'm like, well, yeah, that kind of does make sense, but I still don't believe. Like I'm still not Catholic though. Like there's certain things will be like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I won't say that I'm Catholic, but I can respect that part and like hold on to that part, of certain things. And
would someone else say that would challenge your Christianity? Sorry to cut you off, Mark, but would someone else say that your capacity to be so open? Obviously, there are people who would say this capacity to be so open-minded that the label of Christianity, which you identify with, that could be jeopardized.
Some people might feel that way, especially as a younger person. Maybe it'd be like, oh, don't get caught up, don't be led astray, that type of thing.
Yes, led astray. That was a big one.
Again, like I was saying, having a conversation with a coworker the other day, and I was saying how, like, I appreciate the church that I attend now. Not that I don't appreciate the church I attended years ago growing up, but one thing that I do value at the church I attend now is the fact that there are a lot of different streams of Christianity that comes through there. Meaning, like, it could be maybe described as, like, let's say evangelical, perhaps. But at the same time, we have leadership that they'll take from monasticism, take from monks, certain things taken from Orthodox traditions.
Gotta be.
Makes
sense.
It's still Christian. It's Christianity. It's just at these people do it this way, and we got some of that. These people do it this way, we got some of that. You grew up this way, you still got some of that. It's just being able to, like,
and that's the juice.
Being able to, like, weave it together, like in the tapestry. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm not saying, like, again, if you're a Catholic, like just to be clear, like if you're Catholic, you're a Christian, man. You know what I mean? Like there are Christians, there are Protestants. Let's be clear with the language, right? So there are Protestants who would believe that Catholics aren't Christians because they're Catholic. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like,
right.
That's not true though. But that takes learning that, It
takes learning, and quickly before, because I've had a lot of your time, like, it's to me, on one level, it's like it's a language thing, man. It's like labels, bro. When you label something, you immediately split it, right? There is it, and then there's the not it, and that's just sometimes that's all it is. But then within a couple of years, you forget that you've just given it a different label, and that it's still part of the whole thing. I find that deeply fascinating, and I'm very interested in like trying to like figure out how to communicate better, because I think our language subtly has this feature. It's like, I don't want to call it a bug. It's like a feature. It's there that does this thing, and I just find it really fascinating. And religion is just one way it kind of shows up. But Mark, thank you. Do you have anything you want to say, man, before I let you go, brother?
Be kind.
Be fucking kind, yo. Please. It's okay.
Yeah, man, we got to work on it. I mean, believe me, I work on it. I got to work on it too. But be kind. It's easier to be in situations where, you know, like Jesus would say, you know, love your neighbor, and the harder thing is to love your enemy. You know, and I'm not saying I have literal enemies. We don't have the ops. There's nobody in the block. I'm not looking. I watch for the ops.
Mark, you got a nemesis, bro?
No, you know, I don't. I'm my biggest nemesis, if that's the thing.
There we go.
But it's just like, you know, the harder thing is not loving people that you care about or loving people that you're having affinity for. The hardest, one of the bigger tests is loving people that you don't have a natural affinity for or a natural inclination or drawn towards. You know, the quote unquote the unlovely, whatever that means, whatever, you know. So yeah, be kind. Everybody deserves kindness, even people you disagree with, even people that, and that's me, like talking to myself, like even people that I either disagree with, they may hold views that I find either abhorrent or
trust me,
harmful, but be kind. So I guess for me, especially like in the social media area in particular, it's like I need to challenge myself. And like, well, how do you talk about people? You know what I mean? Like when you put that post up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try to be charitable, but
bro,
that's the challenge. That's the challenge. But so be kind. Challenge yourself to be kind.
That's a beautiful challenge. It's a daily challenge, and I love it because it's a personal challenge. You know, you're telling other people, but I know that you are someone who you tell yourself that. And
yeah, man.
I try to pull things back to myself. So I love that. That's a great way to end. My man, thank you, Mark. Let's do it again soon. All right? Or maybe in a couple of months. All right, we'll figure it out.
Maybe we'll figure it out for sure.
All right, brother. Have a good night,
all right, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And hold on. You stay right there. What's the ending? Hey! Actually, let me come back to this for a second. What up, y'all? That was it. That was the first conversation on this new How Billy Sees It, the new design, and I was with Mark, yo, and I'm glad he came through, and I really appreciate it. I think I'll probably appreciate it even more. Sometimes I watch these after, and I notice things that I didn't notice before, so I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes. And before I jump off, let me just look at these comments Chiba left here. She says, also, y'all look like you're in the yellow tone, Scully, hat, gray shirt, beard, black guy club. Shut up. Those combos must be meant to be, because I'm sure y'all didn't even notice. This combo must be meant to be. We had the gray shirt, yellow turned hat. I kind of noticed that somewhere at the middle there. She says, it sounded like something he wrote in 7 minutes, but also to dedicate a whole song. And not like one line about it. Yes, he could have done it in one line. J. Cole could have done that, a one-liner. But what he did was revolutionary in a different way. And I'd like to see him also flex. Like, he needs to also flex now. Drop something. Take the pressure off. Like, it's not about Kendrick, but just drop something and destroy somebody. You know what I mean? And just let us know that he can still do it. Because I know he still could do it. He's an incredible artist. Sheba says, men bend over backwards to impress other men. It's unfortunate but true. Now we have a bunch of people, former kids, who don't know how to apologize or admit mistakes or uncertainty, but absolutely know how to stay out of adults' businesses. Yeah, yeah, we trained our kids to. Um, I was certainly trained, man. Look, grown folks' business was a thing, and people know what that term means. So we trained the kids to, I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to be a grown folk so that I could actually have a voice, so I could actually like have some say in how shit goes. Um, but I think there are also kids born and raised who are under the age of 18 who are raised to really value their voice and to feel confident about their capacity to step into reality and to create. And I think there's something powerful about teaching your kids that early on, to say that your discomfort is important, what you want is important, even if you're not, you haven't fully formed it yet. You're just a kid, but that what you have to say is important. Let me help you form it even better, with my knowledge. So I fuck with that. Let's see here. Artists are supposed to reflect the times, Sheba says. Correct. I agree. Peases came on for a second. He said, yo. Sheba says, LOL, wow, rapping is more like journalism than we thought. No due diligence has been done. Say whatever those with money tell you. Have a powerful gift of storytelling and use it to further the status quo. Laughing emoji. Yikes. Powerful critique there, Sheebs. Yeah. When you have industry involvement, when you have an industry, a money-making capitalist venture that their goal is that first and foremost, more than anything else, well, that's what's gonna come out. That's exactly what's gonna come out. Everything you just said there. Sheba says we will get more of what we accept, tolerate, so women should stop tolerating these males. Women should stop tolerating these males. I see the language choice there too, the word choices. Yeah, I think everybody should step their demands up. Define truth with more seriousness. They should be more serious about their use of language, be more serious about who they are and what they are willing to tolerate. It took me, 41? It took me well into my late 30s to really get that. So I have an understanding and some patience for people who are on different paths and different parts of their journey. But yeah, we should imbue that in our kids. Our kids will have a better time with this if we set that value up. I don't think the last generation even knew that it was a value. I think they were deprived of that, and then we didn't get it either. And we're getting it. We're going through this process. Anyway, last thing here from Sheba, probably where we get the idea that being soft and weak is bad. Biblical interpretation of women as helpers. Yeah. Biblical interpretation of women as helpers. Soft. Exactly. This contrast thing, man, woman, words, narrative storytelling, opposite, the failure to understand that everything is actually a combination of things. The idea of a dualism, that you're either or. It's a reasonable and natural way to approach this that I understand. Where, like, when I say reasonable and natural, what do I mean there? Let me take those words back. Actually, it's definitely a stamp of our history as humans, as a species, to set these contrasts up. And so, yes, soft is antithetical to masculinity, and hard is antithetical to femininity. And what that does is that sets up a lot of men to be stuck with a challenge because they are something that doesn't fit perfectly in some like interpretation. And it sets up women as well, girls, females, who have been assigned a path. It's not about biology, a path on how to be, a path on how to look, a path on what their aesthetic value is and should be, and what their value in the marketplace can be, and prescriptions about how they should engage in like sexual endeavors, entirely different for men and for women, socially constructed. So yeah, soft as an insult, it's an insult. And then it gives us an opportunity to just notice that, like, these words ain't shit. And maybe you incorporate your truth. And if that includes something called soft, then you take it. And if you value also being hard, then figure out that and incorporate that into yourself as well. And love it. Love the whole thing. You know what I mean? That's it. That's the episode. Really appreciate Mark for his time and his insight and wisdom. Good dude. Alright? I'm gonna take y'all out. Oh man, I got this. I just applaud there. I got this thing. I gotta incorporate this more, man. That's it, y'all. Peace.